shit. Okay, hang on. I forgot to turn on the lights. Hang on a second. This is a great start to this episode. Hang on. Oh shit. Sorry, I'm going to use the excuse that I woke up early to take one of my parakeets to the vet today. So I'm going to try to get through this episode, but I'm sorry about that, but I had maybe 4 hours of sleep because I'm going to get everything done before bed early. I'm just going to focus on a little housework and read a little bit of book, and I read more than a little book, and here we are. And as always, since I'm reading from a script, I'm reading the script from there, and there's the camera, and there's where I'm picking up my feed or whatever you want to call it. So if I sometimes tilt my head this way, that's why. Anyways, today, really embarrassing to have that bad of a start, especially to this video, because this is a review video, and these long reviews I only do once in a while, so eek. So, the book I'm reviewing today is Annie Morphs by Alison Bell. Damn. I believe that's her name. God damn it. Oh yeah, it is. I wrote it on the script, luckily. Yeah, as I said, not really thinking clearly today. Anyways, some people will flee from a book if they hear people aren't enjoying it. I'm the opposite. I hear that people hate a book and I have to read it. Sometimes I'll wait until reading, but eventually I'll get to it. In the Animorphs Facebook group I'm in, people were getting into a frenzy about Animorphs. Most did not like the idea and called it a perversion of Animorphs. So I decided I would have to review it in the future. So now I will give you my thoughts about the journey of reading this book. And as always, past this point, there will be spoilers. So if you're interested at all in reading this book, if you're on the YouTubes, link in the description. If you're on my bloggity blog, link down below. And both links will take you to where you can buy Animorphs by Alison Bell. And oh yeah, only buy it if you are over the age of 18, because this is a little bit of like a erotic parody, I would sort of say. So, if you're not over 18, this review is safe for you, but the book is not. Trust me. Okay. Okay, everyone who doesn't want spoilers gone? Okay. Part 1. First time reading this kind of book. Okay, this is not my first time reading erotica. This is not my first time reading a story with heavy sexual elements. Though this is one of my first erotic books I have bought, as I tend to stick to smutty one-shot fanfics for my fix, which has actually changed since the writing of the script, because I've been reading a bunch of, yeah. Oh, this is the problem with, allowing so much time to pass while writing. Anyways, this allows me to read for free and get right to the point. Other times, I like a good story that just happens to have sex involved. What I mean by first time is that this is my first gender transformation erotica I've read. I'm assuming this is the genre. I have looked for the name of this genre for a few days, even longer, to figure out the history of it. What I can say by reading this book, I might have found something about myself that I'll have to hide from my parents. My dad is already freaked out because I don't believe in God, so yeah, lots of questions that he doesn't need to ask about his angel. I was going to go into detail about transformation fetish or TF, but it was a little hard figuring what exactly to search for, and since I'm writing this part last, which means it's been a month of writing already, this part will be a little shorter than intended. Sorry. Anyways, transformation fetish does not just include a character changing their gender or having the process forced on them. It also includes age regression slash progression, spirit, mind body, animal transformation, inanimate objects, and other transformations. In Animorphs, Arnold chooses to transform into females, but doesn't choose to be stuck as a woman, though she quickly gets used to the change. And if you're wondering, this is coffee, so I can function. Don't normally drink it now because of acid reflux. Anyways, part 2, Yucks versus Yerks. In Animorphs, the Yerks have been renamed Yucks. You can tell this is the case for a variety of reasons. The first is that the two names sound extremely similar. Both start with Y and end with KS. Both species can only survive in their host for 3 days. If either species doesn't return to the pool and get nutrients, they die. One major difference between the two species are their backstories. The Yeerks have a complicated backstory. The Andalites landed on their home world and introduced them to the concept of a huge galaxy. This knowledge and how poorly the Yeerks were treated by the outside species caused the Yeerks to escape and loathe the Andalites. To gather a big enough army to face off against their foes, they needed lots of hosts, which is why they began to invade various planets. The Yucks don't have a complicated backstory, but that doesn't really matter as this book is focused on sensual delights. The foes have to be big enough to seem impressive, but not so large that the threat interferes with everything else. Also, in defense of Animorphs, the Yeerks' backstory in the Animorphs series is revealed over the course of many books. Animorphs just has one book to cover everything. Part 3. For a good majority of the book, the Yucks are forgotten about. Arnold thinks that merely by leaving town he can escape those aliens. In the Animorphs series, the Yeerks tend to only stick to invading one town. So, this plot makes a lot of sense. Unlike the Animorphs series, one of the Yucks leaves Arnold's town and finds him after he has become Annie. In a twisted sense of irony, the Yuck that finds Annie has invaded Dana, which is the person Annie got herself stuck as. After being captured, a different Yuck is put into Annie's head to get information on the 5 teenagers from the construction site. In the book, it is mentioned the Yuck that is put into Annie's head is of higher rank than the one Dana's. The Yuck inside Dana, I think I just pronounced Dana like 3 or 4 different ways. I'm good. I'm doing good here. Anyways, the Yuck inside Dana and the one inside Annie get the needed information. But then comes some cheesy dialogue where the Yuck inside Dana asked if the Yuck inside Annie knows how sensual humans can be. The yuck inside Annie eventually agrees after being assured this breaking of the rules won't be noticed. Annie, of course, doesn't want any of this to be happening with her body, and I highly doubt Dana wants to consent to this. So, both are being raped by space aliens. Before the rape can get beyond fondling, Cash comes to the rescue. The man is Annie's boyfriend, who the Nothlet had told about the yucks and who she actually was. She had called him via thought speak. He then proceeds to have both Annie and Dana tied for the 3 days it would take the yucks to be starved. In all honesty, this scene was done so cheesily that I wasn't that triggered. Though if it went any further, that opinion might have changed. Okay, I'm going to take water this time. I have acid reflux, so I shouldn't just be gulping down lots of water. Part 4. Mandalite versus Andalite. In Animorphs, there are Mandalites, while in Animorphs, there are Andalites. This is easy to tell as both names rhyme with each other, or at least I think they do. It could be I've been mispronouncing them this entire time. Andalites are like centaurs with a few key differences. They don't have any mouths and instead communicate via thought speak. They also have stalk eyes and a tail blade. They also have a weird nose appendage, extra fingers, and eat via their hooves. The differences between male and female are different fur colors and tail blade sizes. Mandalites, on the other hand, are slug-like and have tentacles instead of hands. I was expecting something sexy to happen. Not with one of the other aged children, of course, but with Annie. Andalites have Zero's kindness that prevents them from sharing their secrets with other races. This law was put into place after the Yeerks escaped their home world just to start invading other planets. Because the Andalites didn't want to admit that their whole society is flawed, they decided to blame the whole incident on Prince Zero. Mandalites appear to have no such law. The Alfangor of the book says that the power to morph is a gift from the entire species. I would analyze. I'm sorry. All the words are just like meshing together. Anyways, the Alfangor of the book says that the power to morph is a gift from the entire species. I would analyze this more and come up with a theory that this book's Alfangor is lying, but this is erotica. I don't think the author was intent on coming up with, complex backstories. Part 5. Arnold/Annie is like David in a way. The good majority of you have most likely never picked up an Animorphs book, and if you have, you might not have gotten to the David trilogy, aka Animorphs number 20 through 22, which is one of the darker stories in the series. So, why name the trilogy after him? What kind of impact did David have on the story? The very basic story is that he found the morphing cube that was thought to have been destroyed. He got to talking with Marco and his plans to sell it, and so the Animorphs tried to get the cube before David could sell it. But the Animorphs weren't successful, and Fisher 3 arrived at David's house. The group was able to rescue David, but not his parents. It was decided to make the boy one of the team as his parents were sure to be controllers and he would be turned into controller if he returned home. So, what went wrong? Again, this is a very long story short. I could talk for hours about David, but this isn't a video about him. It's a video review of Animorphs. Anyways, David has no interest in finding the Yeerks. Instead, he wants to make a group of criminals with morphine abilities and get far away from the Yeerks. Arnold in Animorphs accidentally gets the power to morph. Unlike Animorphs and the erotic parody, the ability to morph is projected over an area, and the man just happens to be in range. Anyways, after getting the power to morph, Arnold doesn't want to have anything to do with the war against the Yucks. All he cares about is money and power. So he decides to go to Las Vegas and run a scam against the casinos so that he will be extremely rich. Arnold's initial plan is extremely similar to David's. Both Arnold and David didn't care about fighting evil aliens and instead cared very deeply about their own personal gains. Part 6. Arnold's change of name and pronouns. In the beginning, Arnold is a man who is just average. He changes his name to Annie and his pronouns to female after being stuck in Dynamorph. He does this to make sure he stays in character of a woman easier. It wouldn't do to suddenly refer to himself as he while he had the body of a woman. There is, of course, nothing wrong with falling under the transsexual umbrella. I do. But that does not. Fudge. Sorry, let me. I ad lib and the entire script went to shit. Anyways, there is, of course, nothing wrong with falling under the transsexual umbrella. I fall under it. But that does mean drawing unwanted attention. A problem with this is using pronouns for the main character of the book. Because he and she are correct depending which part of the book one is talking about, or maybe I'm being extremely lazy. No, I'm never lazy, so who knows? Part 7. Morphing technology in Animorphs versus morphing technology in Animorphs. In the Animorphs series, in order to get the ability to morph, you need to be in physical contact with this scaffold device, aka the morphing cube. Alfangor grants the original 5 Animorphs the ability to morph by using the morphing cube he had on his ship. Each Animorph had to have their hand on the cube. In Animorphs, the morphing ability is granted by a small electrical blast going off. In this book, there is no need to actually touch anything. Arnold gets the ability to morph simply by being in range of the blast without the Mendelite knowing what had happened to the human. One thing that is similar in both Animorphs and Animorphs is that there is a 2-hour morphing limit. In both, this is used to make certain scenes more tense. It makes it more tense if characters must always be watching the clock during missions to make sure they aren't trapped in morph. In Animorphs, the missions are about saving the world, while in Animorphs, the missions are a little less serious. Heck, sorry. Usually like doing this between parts. Damn, sorry. In Animorphs, to acquire an animal, you need to be fully focused on both the animal and your intent to acquire it. So you can pet a dog without acquiring it, unless that is what you want to do. Nowhere in the series do any of the Animorphs accidentally acquire anything or anyone. They are always fully aware when they acquire someone. In Animorphs, you can't acquire a creature without fully focusing on the act of acquiring. So you have to train yourself so you don't accidentally acquire something or someone you don't mean to. Such as when Arnold is getting a lap dance from Dana and accidentally acquires her. As in the previous differences, thought speak requires a person to deliberately use the ability, while in Animorphs, you can do it by accident. Such as when Annie accidentally speaks via thought speak to Cash for the first time. In Animorphs, the morphine transformation is horror-inducing. If you have only seen the morphine on the book covers, you don't understand how horrific morphine can be. The transformations don't happen in a logical manner and never the same way twice. The only way you can morph with style is if you're an estrin. Cassie is an estrin, so the majority of her morphs aren't vomit-inducing. As Animorphs is supposed to make the reader aroused, the morphine transformations are much different. In the parody, you merely think about who you want to morph and your body blurs and then you're someone else. Ta-da! No body horror. Oh, sheesh. Part 8. Arnold / Annie's character arc. Even within the confines of a simple story, Arnold goes through a character arc. He is not a character that stays the same way throughout the book. Arnold starts off lazy and selfish. We don't see him having any great friendship or relation with his family. I mean, when he decides to head for Las Vegas, there is no mention of anyone being concerned about him or him caring about anyone's concern for him. Arnold also gets extremely cocky about his morphine abilities and looks down on the regular people. He doesn't think he has anything to fear from law enforcement. He figures he can commit the perfect crime as no one else knows about his shape-shifting abilities. It is this arrogance that eventually gets him trapped in Dynamorph. Once Arnold becomes trapped in Dynamorph and renames herself Annie, she quickly finds Cash. Their partnership starts off as purely physical and for monetary gain. With mere thought speak, she can provide him an advantage in the magic business. However, this person who started the book out as purely selfish and out for himself figures out she is in love with Cash, truly in love with him. To cement this change of personality to a more caring person, Annie wishes to use the money she, Dana, and Cash make to fund the rebellion, aka this book's version of the Animorphs. It is this plot point that makes me hope a sequel is on its way. And if you're wondering about Dana, Dana eventually joins Annie and Cash after the whole, yuck incident. Part 9. Sexy Sex Scenes. This book is erotica, and so there are many descriptive sex scenes. If any of this review has made Animorph seem appealing to you, but you don't like reading sex scenes, this book is not for you. If you think 50 Shades of Grey is the height of erotica, stay away from this book. This book holds nothing to Anne Rice's Sleeping Beauty trilogy, I assume after everything I've heard about it, but it does offer up some unique concepts. The sex scenes in Animorphs are awesome. I think I might have discovered a few new kinks along the way. Some that I will take to my grave. To my grave and beyond until I ascend to a higher plane of existence. I assume at that time I won't feel any shame about them. One great scene is when Arnold first morphs Dana and decides to, I can't really describe it on YouTube. What I can say about it is that it was well written with a mix of eroticism and feeling. Near the end of the book, I grew intrigued about the idea of Annie and Dana doing the do. Remember, Annie is stuck in Danamorph. I don't know if this counts as twincest or what. Like, I've reached that odd level. I don't even know if Annie doing Dana would be considered some sort of incest. All I know is I was intrigued about it happening. In a book with a bigger focus on plot, this relationship would need to be built up over time. This due to the Yucks nearly raping both Annie and Dana earlier. But this is a lighthearted book, so the Annie, Dana, and Cash threesome happens rather quickly. It's like I can't say Annie if I'm going to say Dana afterwards. It's like those two names just collide in my head. Okay, hang on. This is actually just tap water. So if you manage to see what the bottle says, that's not the water I'm drinking. Part 10. Not an insult to Annie. God, fuck. I'm getting the names confused. Dang! Okay, let's start this again. We can do this. Part 10. Not an insult to Animorphs. I first heard about this book in an Animorphs group I'm in on Facebook. As it was a fan group of the series, they decried Animorphs as being an insult to Animorphs. I can understand the reaction as parodies aren't appreciated by everyone, and to see a beloved childhood classic turned into erotica cannot be some people's cup of tea. So I didn't believe the book had to be bad just because some fans didn't like the summary of the book. Yet there was some allure about the book once people. Hang on. I'm getting confused by my own writing. Okay. Yet there was some allure about the book once people were saying to avoid it. I'm one of the idiots. When I'm told something should never be seen or read, it just makes me more likely to consume that piece of media. Such as I had to watch The Room because everyone talked about how bad it is. I read Annie Morse while keeping an open mind. I was not reading it expecting it to be like Animorphs, though it took me a little time to stop judging it by the original series standards. By the end of the book, I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. I am a fan of parodies, and so I knew it would win me over that way. But I had no idea how much the book would win me over by the end. This book is a parody of the Animorphs series and so tells its own story while still relating to the original. It uses the original series as a jumping off point to tell its own unique story. This isn't a bad thing, as if it was a beat by beat retelling of Animorphs, it would both be lazy writing and plagiarism. As stated before, one of the ways it relates to the original story is through Arnold's story. It is as if he is an adult version of David. Like David, he plans to use the morphing powers to live a life of crime. He plans to use the vast amount of wealth to live a life that used to be impossible for him to obtain. Arnold, unlike David, is an adult, and so there is a lot of eroticism in his story. Very intense eroticism that was more than enjoyable to read. This book will be enjoyable to anyone that likes both parody and erotica. However, if you are reading this book expecting it to have the same tone as Animorphs, you will have a bad time. It is an extremely lighthearted read that is in no way comparable to the dark tone of the original series. And remember, if you do decide to check out Animorphs, you need to be over 18 years of age. I cannot stress that enough. And also, if you do want to read the book and also help me out, if you're on the YouTube's link in the description, if you're on my blog, link down below, and both links will take me and you and anyone else to where you all can buy Animorphs by Alison Bell. And the next review, I must have misplaced the book I was originally going to do next, because I was like, oh yay, I'm going to finally get through this whole big fat collection. It'll be fun for us all. And then hey Google, stop. God damn it. Started to play something, I think. Somehow tapping the right way is like, I want to sing. Anyways, and so this is not the book I intended to do next, but I'm going to do it next. It's going to be I'm holding up like, Simba at the end of Lion King. And the next review is Star Wars The New Rebellion by Christine Catherine Ruche. I'm probably screwing up the name there. And I believe anything in this book is no longer considered canon in Star Wars universe, so. And if you're like, I didn't really want you to review this book next. I wanted you to review this book or this movie. Well, if you do have something you want me to review, I do accept review requests, but only by one link. If you are watching this on the YouTubes, link in the description. If you're if you're on my blog, link up above, and both links will take you to where you can. I was going to say buy something, but I'm like, oh no, that's not what I say for this. But if you follow that link, you will get to where you can request a review. And yes, it is under a little bit of a paywall, but yeah. If you really want me to review something, that is the way to go. And so yeah. And actually, I'm going to be taking a little time off from these long reviews to do some Patreon exclusive reviews. So if you notice a little bit of a longer break than normal, that's why. Don't worry, I will never forget you, and I will be back. And if you like this review, please like this video. Also, comment below if you have anything you want to talk about this book, or if you want to understand more about my review request, to make certain whatever you're requesting is something I'll actually accept. And if you're on my blog, please choose the follow by email option so you get informed the next review I do. I also do mini reviews on my blog, so keep an eye out there. Whew. Yay. It's been like a month or two, and I got 34 minutes done there, so hey. So, until next video, goodbye, stay safe, don't do anything too stupid. And let's end. Bye!